Hey, I can't believe it, but I'm doing another tutorial video. Thanks a bunch, you guys, for all the views, subscribes, comments, and likes on the first one that was about creating custom OBS transitions for free using Shotcut, GIMP, and of course OBS. And everything that you guys said, all the likes, really motivated me to do this second tutorial, and I'm really happy to be here, and it was a lot of fun. And going forward, I'm going to be putting all of my stream improvement and quality of life tutorials in a playlist which is called Learnin' and Earnin', so that they're going to be easy to find and they don't get lost in the sea of all the streams and other content on the channel. So this tutorial is all about creating an animated logo for your stream to use as an overlay. It's a really good way to get your brand in front of viewers while also labeling your content and future-proofing it from being taken and used in compilations, without some sort of attribution to you, the creator. So I originally got inspired to do the animated logo by seeing It's a Gundam and his streams on Twitch and his little animated rotating medallion, which I always thought was really cool. So I've had a rotating logo for the past few months now, and I've been using it on stream, kind of just testing it out, seeing what the options are and what seems to be best in terms of performance and optimization for that kind of thing. I've concluded that while you can use a WebM, like in the first tutorial where it's got the transparent background, it's not really as good for performance and optimization as using a GIF or a GIF, however you want to call it. If you're just starting out, or CPU cycles are really important to you, you need your CPU to be freeing up to play games or run the stream as opposed to rotating a logo, then the GIF option is definitely for you. Seemingly the best thing to do is to make a GIF and use that instead of the WebM with alpha. Depending on the complexity of your logo and what you decide to do to frame it or animate it, though a GIF in the long run may not be your best option, I do really strongly suggest that you stick with the low complexity for now. If you want to get a bit more complex after you've got the basics under your fingers, just leave a comment down below. If there's enough interest that enough people need it or want it, I'll make a WebM branch of this tutorial which will kind of go off on one of the steps and show you how to do the alpha using Shotcut and exporting it as a video from Blender as opposed to a set of images, which is what we're going to be doing in this tutorial. So first off, you probably already have a logo for your brand. Probably, maybe not. But if not, go and get GIMP or Inkscape, and they're going to be up there. I'll put logos and links in the description and whatever, so you can find the programs easily. They're both, of course, open source, free to use. I'm going to say though, if you're more interested in longevity, transferability, mutability for your logo, if you want to change it, if you want to iterate on it, then probably the Inkscape route is the better way to go. It's just easier to import it into other programs like Blender and then really get to do some fun things with the different elements of your logo. Inkscape is vector art, makes SVGs. It's a lot like Adobe Illustrator. There's a little bit of a learning curve for keyboard shortcuts and stuff, but if you know what the general tools are in Illustrator and Photoshop, you'll get along pretty well pretty quickly. Did I forget to mention, we're going to be animating the logo in 3D space, and we're going to be using Blender for that. It's another open source and free program, and I've been using it for 4 or 5 months now, and so much to learn. A lot of fun though. Anyways, it can import, I just briefly mentioned, the Inkscape SVGs, and then you could do a bunch of different fun and interesting things with that file. You got to do a few modifications for it, but that's another tutorial. That's too complex for now. And this tutorial is going to be focusing strictly on importing and using a PNG image as a plane into Blender, and it should have a transparency, probably, more than likely, depending on your logo. Most, I think, will. And yeah, it's just to get you used to the workflow, get everybody used to the workflow, and prepare people to take on more complicated tasks in Blender in the future. So I'm going to break the tutorial down into this many steps, 8 steps. Yeah, I'll list them out, and then there'll be timestamps and stuff down below for you to go and click around in the video to see stuff that you need to see or you may have missed or whatever. So first, we're going to be setting up the Blender environment for our project, and that's going to mainly consist of enabling import images as planes. There's going to be a little thing in there for people who have NVIDIA cards as well. Then second, we are going to set up the camera width and height, set the FPS value for our render, set the range of frames for our render, and we're going to change the render output properties as well. And then we're going to be moving on to step 3, where we're going to import the image of your logo and set its blending mode to clip the PNG's alpha channel so that we don't have any black in the image, and instead we get the transparency showing in the render in Blender. So fourth, we are going to lay out the scene and reposition our camera, and then we're also going to add and remove lighting from the scene. Step 5, where we're going to animate the plane object, which is the logo, with rotational keyframes. Step 6, we're going to render and export the completed scene as individual frames to PNG files from within Blender. Step 7, we're going to open each frame as separate layers in GIMP and then export all of them into a GIF animation. And then our final step is going to be step 8, where we're going to add the new GIF as an image source to OBS. All of the software we're utilizing works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. You know, there's going to be a flavor of them out there for you. You just got to find it. But don't download them from shady websites. I'm going to be getting the job done on Windows once again. If you don't have a logo, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is the time to pause the video, go download Inkscape and GIMP, because we're going to be needing GIMP to compile the GIF later on in the 7th step. Once you've got those, start creating your logo. Sometimes I find it helpful to just sketch a few things down on paper first and brainstorm before I go into a digital medium. If you're stumped or whatever, you got creative block, just try that. Brainstorm some stuff, make some scribbles, and see what you can come up with there. You can always change it later, right? So don't worry if it's not your favorite thing. You're gonna have the skills after this to be able to make your logo whenever you want and change it however you like whenever you want. Once you've got a logo that you like, you want to export it as a PNG file with transparency. The resolution should be about 1000 by 1000 pixels. If your logo isn't square, have its height or width be at least 1000 pixels. Keep it big, and you can always scale it down later. If you already have a logo, I'm sorry. You had to wait. But now we're ready to start. So you're gonna need Blender, which you can download from blender.org, or you can get it from the Windows Store, and both of those options are free, of course. Not sure if it's in the Mac OS X App Store, but you can look there if you've got a Mac and you prefer to install your apps that way. Yeah, Linux users, you probably already know what to do with your package manager. The version that I'm going to be using in this tutorial for Blender is 2.8, which is the latest major release. A lot of things have changed since the last version, so even I was kind of relearning things with the new Eevee rendering engine while I was going along here. If you need some videos or you'd like some videos to kind of show you the ropes and basics of Blender, I would definitely suggest checking out the Blender Foundation's YouTube channel. They've got a lot of great stuff there. And also the Blender Guru. He has some really good tutorials that, just kind of get your feet wet into Blender, and I'll leave links in the description down below for some tutorials for Blender if you're kind of stumped once you get it opened up. Anyways, let's go. Alright, Blender installed? Good. Now we're going to want to go into the edit menu and enable the add-on to import PNG images as planes, which is disabled by default. So to enable it, we're going to go to edit, preferences, add-ons button once we're in there, and in the search box for add-ons type in images. Import images as planes should appear in the list on the right. Check its box to enable it, and then click on the hamburger in the bottom left and then save user settings. While you're here, and if you're using an NVIDIA GPU with CUDA cores, you may want to enable CUDA in the System tab. Select your CUDA-enabled GPU and then save your settings. In most cases, this will increase your rendering performance. Let's get rid of the default Blender cube by clicking on it and then hitting the delete key. Now we need to set our rendering parameters, which are all just suggestions. You can do whatever you feel like, but this has worked best for me. In the Properties area, select Output, the printer icon, and then under Dimensions, change the resolution of X and Y to 400. The aspect ratio on X and Y should be 1. Frame rate should be set to 30, unless you broadcast at 60 frames per second, in which case you'll want to set it to 60. A full fluid rotation should take about 2.5 to 3 seconds, so take your frame rate and multiply it by the seconds, 90 for 30 frames per second and 180 for 60 frames per second. That value will be put in the end frame value of the frame range properties. Still in the Output Properties tab, expand the output properties. Change the file type to PNG and select RGBA on the right. Color depth and compression can be left default. We need to make the sky not render. Click on the render properties in the properties box, and in the film section, check transparent. Now the sky will not render and our background will be transparent. This is the new way to do things with the Eevee rendering engine. Now let's import the logo as a plane. Click on the File menu and then Import and Images as Planes. To get the alpha out of the image in the Eevee engine, we have to perform an additional step in the plane object's material properties. Click on the plane of your logo to select it, and then in the Properties area, select the Materials context menu, the sphere icon. In the Settings drop-down, we have to change the blend mode to Alpha Clip. Your image should have imported at location 0 by 0 by 0 on the X, Y, and Z, and 90-degree rotations on the X and Z axis. You can confirm this by clicking on the Object Context menu and looking in the Transform properties of the plane. If your values are not the same, make them match. 0 as location on the X, Y, and Z, and 90-degree rotation on X and Z. With the plane image of your logo set properly in space, we can now select and adjust the camera for our render. Click on the camera, and then, in its Object Properties context menu, set X location to 2 and the Y and Z location values to 0. You'll also want to set the X and Z rotation of the camera to 90 degrees. When you have everything lined up, slam F12 on your keyboard and Blender will render a single frame of your progress so far. Let's adjust the camera though to fit as much of the image in the frame without clipping it as we can. I settled on 1.44 meters distance. The lighting is a bit dim though, so we're going to fix that next by adding some spotlights to our scene and removing the lamp which is currently illuminating it. In the Layout viewport, click on Add. Hover over Light and then select Spot. A new spotlight will be added to the scene, but we're going to have to move it and change its lighting properties a little. To change the location, we'll first make sure the spotlight is selected in our viewport. Then select the Object Context properties. I'm going to set my location for the spot 1 meter behind my camera, so for me that's going to be 2.44 meters, and offset it to the left by 0.81 meters, but the value will be negative to set it on the left, so it'll be negative 0.81 meters. The X rotation will set to 90 degrees and the Z rotation to 72 degrees. I'm going to use a second spotlight, but first we need to set all the properties of this one properly, so we can duplicate the spot and have two matching light sources. Set the power to 90 watts. Set the size under spot shape to 27 degrees. That should be all we need. Now in the layout viewport with the spot object still selected, click on Object in the top left of the viewport and then Duplicate Object. Don't move your mouse. Do not move your mouse. Just click again to place the duplicated spot exactly where the original one is. The new spot will now be the object selected, so click in the object's context menu in the Properties panel. Change the location on the y-axis to a positive value, so just remove the minus, and it'll be offset to the right. Change the Z rotation to 108 degrees, and we now have two beaming spots aimed dead center on our logo. Slam F12 and oh baby, we're cooking now. Adjust your spot intensity if you need to, lower wattage for darker, higher for brighter, and remember to adjust both spots to match. Time to animate the logo, and for simplicity's sake, I'm going to show you how to rotate it. This is probably a good place to save your file, and you probably should have a few times already, and then save it as something new. So if we make any irreparable mistakes, we can go back to this step again from the beginning like nothing ever happened. So now working on the new file you've just saved, let's add some keyframes to the timeline for rotation on our image plane object. Select the plane, make sure frame 1 is the frame you're on, and then hit I on your keyboard. Select rotation from the context menu list that appears. The rotation in the object context transform properties will change color. Seek the timeline to the second last frame and change the Z rotational value to 449 degrees, which is 90 plus 359, to simulate a full rotation of the logo. You can press 0 on the numpad to change between the free look view and the camera's perspective. You'll see me do that a few times here. Click Jump to Endpoint on the left of play in the timeline area to get your frame position back to the beginning, and then hit the spacebar to play the rotation of your logo and confirm it's spinning 359 degrees counterclockwise. If you want a clockwise rotation, seek to the second last frame on the timeline and replace 449 with -269 on the image's Z rotation. You'll have to hit I and click the rotation keyframe type to overwrite the previous value set. Now with the plane object selected, right-click on the timeline and hover over the interpolation type option and select linear for a smooth rotation without acceleration. Once you've done that and your animated logo looks how you envisioned it would, hit Ctrl and F12 on your keyboard at the same time to begin rendering the animation into single PNG images for each frame. This process could take some time depending on your hardware and the complexity of your scene. When rendering is complete, save your Blender file and close the application. Open up a File Explorer window and get the temp folder on your main drive. In most cases, the default directory is set to C:\TMP. In that folder, you should find the 90 or 180 images for each frame of your animated logo. If you're having trouble finding it, open up Blender again and check the output properties. In the output drop-down field, a text box will be at the top showing the directory where your renders are being exported to. With GIMP launched, select File and then Open as Layers. Find the folder where you saved all the frames of the animation and then select them all, Ctrl A if there's nothing else in that folder, and then click on Open. GIMP will begin opening each file as a separate layer. Now all we need to do is export the layers as a GIF. So File, Export as, name your file, my logo or whatever, .gif. And the GIF part, I can't stress enough, is super important here, otherwise obviously that it won't work, it won't be animated. And once you've got that all done, click on Export in the file window. And now a GIF image specific options dialog box is going to appear, and we're going to want to change a few things. and this is going to vary depending on whether or not you're doing 30 frames per second or 60, so it's super important to pay attention here. First, make sure the As Animation checkbox is selected. Loop Forever should also be selected. Delay between frames where unspecified is the tricky part. If your animation is 30 frames per second, you want to enter 30 milliseconds. If your animation is 60 frames per second, then you'll want to enter 15 milliseconds. For frame disposal where unspecified, select 1 frame per layer, replace. Make sure the Use Delay entered above for all frames and Use Disposal entered above for all frames options are checked, and then click on Export. Go open up your newly created GIF and confirm everything looks good. Damn, that's a nice animation. Now all that's left to do is add the GIF as an image source in your OBS scenes. Pretty simple stuff that I'll show but not explain, since you're probably quite familiar with it already. Looks great, and now your content will forever be uniquely branded. Thanks to Blender, a real alternative to like Maya, or anything else, that's for professional 3D work out there. For beginners and hobbyists, honestly, it can't be beat. It's such a powerful, incredible tool. I can't wait to see Blender hit the big time soon, because it's coming. It's coming, and it's a good time to learn it. It's a very good time to learn it. Also, thanks to GIMP for having such a flexible and powerful open source image manipulation software. That GIF is awesome. It's great. It's pretty easy. It's maybe not as user intuitive as maybe Photoshop, but it still does an incredible job. Thanks to OBS, of course. Without their incredible open source software, this video just simply wouldn't exist. This whole brand of content and genre of content would not exist without programs like OBS, which allow people to record and broadcast themselves. It's incredible. It's incredible. Most importantly, truly most importantly, thanks to you for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, and obviously for wanting to learn and earn. This video is for you. I made this for you, obviously. And if you make anything super cool, like you make a really cool animation with your logo or whatever, just drop it in the comments, leave a reference or something. I'd love to see what you come up with. I'd love to see what everybody comes up with. Yeah, so that's it. That's how you make your animated logo and optimize it for broadcasting by making it a GIF. I hope it takes you far. I really do. And don't forget to just get creative, play with it, play around, try different animations, try different lighting, animate your camera, maybe animate your lights, animate it all. Just do it, Really, when it comes to this kind of stuff, your imagination is the limit, and it's wonderful. As always, like and subscribe for more. Really motivates me to get these videos out there. I appreciate it so much. Thank you all very, very much. And stay chill.